Hello and welcome to the Learning to Slay the Beast podcast, a resilience podcast where we talk about all the challenging things that we're working to overcome, like anxiety, health, and relationship issues. My name is Sarah. Welcome to another episode of the Learning to Slay the Beast podcast. My name is Sarah and I'm happy to connect with you this week. So we are going to get into how to bounce back from rock bottom. This week we have a guest named Amy Denson. She's a nutritional therapy practitioner, and we're going to talk about all the things that helped her to move forward when she hit rock bottom. So Amy is a former professional athlete turned nutritional therapy practitioner after she was diagnosed with her second autoimmune disorder, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, post-retirement. So today we talk with her and focus on how she is working to help women who are lacking medical supports in order to help them bounce back from rock bottom. So we don't just talk about her story, but we move into some of the practical tips that everybody can use when they've come along to hard times or when they've went through issues in themselves that they really need to move forward on. We talk about things like food and movement and water and sleep, a lot of those foundational things. We learn Amy's amazing story and really fascinating to understand a little bit more about the life of a professional athlete. And then we also talk about what we can do to move forward ourselves and the things that are going to have those biggest impacts on our health. So please join me in welcoming Amy Denson. So welcome, Amy, to the podcast. I'm happy to connect with you today.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. So why don't we start with you providing a little bit more about your background?
Sure. Yeah. So I am a former professional athlete, and I, grew up playing sports and was very much a tomboy, and I'm over 6 foot. And I joke that I was like basically this size in the 6th grade. I've always been really tall. And I've just loved sports and loved being active. And I always knew that I had, a real passion for basketball. And so that's really what I pursued, very much in high school. I ended up playing for Arizona State University, where we were able to make school history, and we made an appearance at the Sweet 16 in the NCAA tournament, which was my dream. And after college, I ended up getting an agent and was able to play professionally overseas for almost 8 years and got to fulfill that dream, which, was, a long time ago. It was about 15 years ago that I started playing professionally. And, I really wasn't aware of the opportunities overseas. And now it's grown. The women's game has grown so much. But even then, just to be able to travel the world and be able to be paid for my passion and my love for that game was, my first dream come true. So, yeah, so I just, kind of athlete. And once I retired, I was 30 years old and, kind of came back to the States and had a major identity crisis. Is like, what the heck am I going to do now? Not having had lived in the United States for so long and really having to wrap my head around the idea of living in one place. And all I had was a laptop and a suitcase for most of my 20s in my career. And so just a lot of newness. I was in a new relationship, who is now my husband. And yeah, just kind of floated around for a while. I ended up landing at a small Division I school, Portland State University, where I coached women's basketball. And I thought that was like it. This is my calling. I loved it. And I really think that mentoring young women at that, stage in life, especially athletes, and a lot of identity work and pressure to perform and confidence and a lot of stuff that I kind of struggled with during that time. I thought, this would be great to have a different perspective coming in where, I had experienced it. I had been recruited. I did get to play at the highest levels. So if that's something an athlete wanted to do, how to pursue that. But yeah, just with kind of the stress of life and the job, kind of ended up stressing myself out to the max, and kind of had to reevaluate how I dealt with stress and how I dealt with life. I ended up getting very sick, and that's kind of what led me to where I am today, and helping other women to not basically go through kind of the health crisis that I went through. So it's kind of a winding road, but that's kind of where the background started.
Yeah, that's great and super interesting. I mean, it definitely sounds like you've had quite an interesting life and lots of wonderful opportunities. I know you mentioned a little bit about some challenging health issues once, you were kind of in a high stress situation. What types of health issues were you dealing with, just so listeners can kind of understand the linkages?
Yeah. And so I was born with an autoimmune disorder, and nothing that has really, probably because naively I just didn't know much about it, but nothing that's really affected the way that I wanted to live my life. And when I was 30-ish to 33 is kind of when I started to experience what I now know as symptoms. I kind of took it as a personal attack on myself, as far as like, what am I doing wrong? And, why am I aging? Am I aging? Is this part of aging? I can fix this. I can, eat better or eat less. I can work out harder. I can be more disciplined. I was very tough on myself. What I didn't understand, what my body was doing, what it was trying to communicate. It was crying out for help. And in my family, I do have a history of thyroid disorders. And so I'd always kind of known in the back of my head that that's a real possibility. I didn't know that with thyroid, the autoimmune side of it. So I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is when my body gets a little confused and starts to think that my thyroid is the foreign invader. It is something that needs to be gotten rid of. And so my body was attacking my thyroid. It was an immune response. Along with that, I also have hypothyroidism, which is very common. And I don't think that it's talked about enough that most of the time Hashimoto's and hypothyroidism, they kind of come as a pair. It's a 70 to 80%, which we can talk about that a little bit later, because it's not, sometimes the Hashimoto or the autoimmune side of the thyroid is not always tested. And so if people are, very commonly diagnosed with hypo or hyperthyroidism, and they take, a pill and nothing else changes, they still feel, very lethargic. They just don't feel like themselves. They're gaining weight. For our thyroid, it's like our little engine. So it's very much controlling our body temperature. So if you're waking up in the middle of the night with night sweats, or, cold hands, cold feet, hair loss, and hair loss for me was my last kind of like, okay, something's wrong. What I didn't understand was how much the stress of my job and the perceived stress that I was putting on myself. So when I say perceived stress, that is the worry of the future, or the really like honing in or fixating on the past. So, feeling senses of regret, feeling like I should be better, feeling as though I need to do more, feeling as though I need to be more accepted in my job. And I very much wasn't. I was not. It was a very tough situation as far as me being around the wrong people. And I didn't really take it as that. I took it as, it's not I'm around the wrong people. It's that I'm not doing enough. It's something wrong with me where I'm not fitting in. And so that really kind of messed with my confidence. And I thought about it all the time. Like, how can I do more? How can I? And so I really wasn't really setting any boundaries for myself on how I wanted to be treated, right? I wasn't really being heard. I wasn't feeling like I was contributing at all. And I think that feeling of knowing you're contributing and being a part of something. I like teamwork is like my blood, right? I want to be a part and of something, and I want to support the people around me as well. And so that perceived stress, or me just really not valuing my worth in that time, bending over backwards for people that were not at all bending over backwards for me. I feel like I kind of stressed myself into a really elevated state. And this is, just how do we deal with stress? How do we deal with people treating us certain ways? These are habits or thoughts or behaviors that I've developed over my whole life, right? So through different types of circumstances. And so for me, hair loss was the time where I was like, okay, enough is enough. I went and saw an endocrinologist who diagnosed me with Hashimoto's, and I went and got a biopsy of my thyroid, which was kind of scary. And, I had asked, so having Hashimoto's, could this be related to any of the symptoms I'm experiencing? I don't have any energy. At the time I was, in that stressful job, I ended up quitting, but I kind of went from that job to another stressful job in a different way. And so the theme of stress is really, how am I dealing with stress? Right. And so, because we can find stress at anywhere, everywhere. But how I was dealing with it was the same type of way. So I was going from an environment to a different environment, but I wasn't changing the way that I dealt with things. And so I'd asked the endocrinologist, like, is there any relation to, me gaining weight, to me feeling really lethargic, to me wanting to sleep for all the time through the weekend, and then on Sunday being so depressed that I'd have to do it all over again. Relating to my hair loss, anything like that. And they said no. And I said, is there anything else I can do? And they said, no, you just need to wait until your thyroid basically destroys itself, and then we'll put you on hormone supplements to keep you going. And, I had this gut feeling that I'm like, God, that just doesn't sound right. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But at the same time, obviously this was a very well-known endocrinologist, and not that it was any ill-intentioned advice, but it wasn't in her wheelhouse. Right. It wasn't in her wheelhouse to treat this Hashimoto's or treat this thyroid function or dysfunction in a different way. There wasn't any sort of lifestyle talking of sleep, diet, movement, stress reduction. That wasn't a part of what she's there to do. And so it wasn't ill-intentioned, but at the same time, I didn't listen to whatever was in my gut saying that doesn't sound right. I kept going on with my life. And so about 2 or 3 years later, I'm still struggling with the same symptoms. And I feel like I'm just kind of in a fight with my body to respond in the way that I've always been used to it responding. And we had company over for Memorial Day, actually, it's coming up. And I wasn't feeling well. And I just put on the face of the host. And, and the thing is if I would have just said, I don't feel well, the people that we had here, they're amazing. And it wouldn't have ruined the weekend or anything like that. But heaven forbid that I ever, say anything to disrupt anybody else's happiness or having fun. And so when that door closed, when they left, I just started bawling. I looked at my husband and I said, I can't live the rest of my life like this. Like, there has to be something different. And the best way I could describe it was, for me, that was one of my rock bottom moments. But I would look at myself in the mirror and I wouldn't recognize myself. And now I understand it was more of an inflammation thing rather than like a weight gain per se. But like, I literally didn't recognize myself in the mirror. I didn't feel like myself. And, I do have a lot of women and clients come to me and for, we could go down this rabbit hole for a slew of reasons that weight loss is the main goal. But when I was at my rock bottom moment, I didn't care about the weight. I wanted to feel like myself again. I wanted energy. To me, was the gold standard. And to be able to pursue my life and live my life the way that I wanted to. And so, that's when I kind of started to really advocate for myself. And when I say advocate for myself, it sounds like very strong and very like chest out, like this is who I am. But it was very much a baby step, and following that instinct of this cannot be the way I live the rest of my life. I'm not going to settle for this being the way I live the rest of my life. I mean, I was only, really like, I think 34 years old. And, I'd been to different doctors. I went to a dermatologist for the hair loss because I Googled it, like, oh, maybe a dermatologist can help me. And I had a dermatologist tell me that I was prematurely balding at 33 years old and to maybe try Rogaine. And I was like, again, I didn't say anything out loud, but I just said in my gut, in my heart, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound right. I had another doctor. I was having a lot of trouble sleeping. So we had a doctor recommend sleeping pills, but he just said, these aren't really the ones I want to give to you. I actually have to give these certain ones to you first, but just know they're super addicting. And then I was afraid to hop on that bandwagon because I'm like, well, gosh, that's the last thing I need right now is to, so it was such a road of kind of dead ends for a bit. And not that any of these people are ill intentions. Again, it's just what they're there to do. They're there to fix the symptom, right? But there has to be what's underlying that, what's causing all of this. And that's what I really wanted to know. And how could I maybe not fix is the right word, but how could I manage it so that I could live my life? And so I just, from that Memorial Day weekend, I just started doing my own research and found a naturopath that had experience in Hashimoto's, had experience in autoimmune, and just, really was willing to dig deeper. And after, we went into 2020, and it was a time where I was able to keep my job and work from home. And it was probably the first time in my life that I really rested. And that for me was such a game changer. And, once I started to really feel better, I again listened to my gut and I was like, you know what? I don't want women to go through the same dead ends that I did. And there is hope. You can feel better. And there's a lot that we can do with, the basics, with diet, with lifestyle, with movement, with sunshine, with sleep. And so just to help women that are going through so many, common symptoms that we've deemed as normal and that we're willing to settle with and, settle with living within our day-to-day lives. And I just don't accept that. And I don't want other women to accept that either for themselves. And so that's when I started my own business and really helping women kind of navigate, thyroid or whatever kind of thyroid and autoimmune is kind of where my, expertise kind of lies, but really just, everything is connected. So hormones, gut health, all of that. So that's kind of how I landed here.
Yeah, that's great. And I mean, I can honestly identify with some of those stories. Like I had a very similar, the first time that I experienced burnout, went to my doctor and said like, I don't know what's going on. And he was like, why don't you try these sleeping pills? You can't sleep because, of that. And it wasn't at all, oh yeah, maybe it's the anxiety, maybe it's all of these other things contributing. And, similarly with autoimmune, I have had psoriasis since I was about 13 when it first started to come out on my skin. And same thing, I went to so many doctors. Nobody ever told me it was a like autoimmune condition. It was always like, oh, psoriasis, here's a cream. This is what you do kind of thing. There was no, this might affect other pieces of your life, your energy, your inflammation, like all of those things. And so I think there's probably so many people that can identify with some of those things that you've come across, I'm sure. How did it feel like in terms of being a professional athlete, someone who's considered super strong, you rely on your body for so much of your job. How did that feel to then start to have these health struggles impact your life?
Yeah, I mean, that was very much a part of the identity crisis there. When I retired and I came back to such newness, and I was living a life where obviously all I was around was basketball and athletes and the club that I played for and the fans. And Not like tooting my own horn, but that was just the environment I was always in. So to come back here and I couldn't even get a job, because if somebody didn't at least like sports or acknowledge sports,
right.
They were saying that they were looking at my resume like, well, you graduated and you've been off the map for 8 years. You have zero experience. And so, I mean, struggling to find a job, and I kept really, who am I without saying, hey, I'm Amy, I'm a professional athlete. That was what made me special. Right. And so now it felt like I went from somebody to nobody overnight. And that was really, really difficult. I always knew retirement was going to be difficult, but no, I did not. I mean, that was really difficult. And so just trying to navigate that and really trying to find out who am I? What do I like? What do I want to do with the rest of my life? That was a whole kind of hurdle, and an internal hurdle in itself. And then to physically not be able to do what I wanted to do, to physically be changing. And I think too, as a woman, it's also just with the pressure and all the noise that we have with all the shoulds, how we should look, how we should age. It was incredibly difficult, and it was incredibly humbling. And I think, right now I just turned 39. So I'm going into my last year in my 30s, and, talking about movement and motivation a lot, but not feeling, I talked to a lot of people. I don't feel like moving my body. I don't feel like walking. And for me, it's all about health and energy. I think I'm hopefully getting a little bit more past the whole, like, of course I want to look as good as I can, but it's, coming to terms with me not being a professional athlete. My body is obviously going to look different. But really taking advantage of what my body can do today, taking advantage of the strength that I have and the muscle memory that I have. I'm just getting back into really consistent weightlifting, because for me, when I'm strong, that's when I feel my most confident. My body has always very much responded to strength training. And, at some point we may not have a choice of how we're able to move our bodies. And today I am able to choose how I move my body. And I just keep having this reoccurring thought or theme that I just do not want to take advantage, or I do want to take advantage of, what my body can do today. And because I've been at points very, very quickly where I did go from professional athlete to all I want to do is sleep. And there is a very big difference between not, feeling like something or not being motivated and having chronic fatigue. It's a very, very big difference. And so, yeah, I mean, it was the last, 9 years being in my 30s, there's been so much change. There's been just so much change in my life. And I feel like it all happened at very quickly. And so to be able to navigate all of that, so many lessons, but just with all of us, we all have our story, and those lessons build resilience. And so what can we learn from that, right? How am I taking my past as a professional athlete and, working out in the most extreme ways in combination with not being able to really move my body at all? How can I take, kind of the middle of those two, and I get to move my body in the way that I choose today that's also very supportive for my body today. So I guess just summing up, it's just been a decade of learning and just running up a lot of kind of dead ends and lessons that have humbled me to my knees at some points. But, obviously through pain is really, unfortunately, pain is a place where we are the most motivated to change. Or to figure out how to make something better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You get to a point where you're just like, I can't have it this way anymore.
Right. Enough is enough. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, enough is enough. Yeah, absolutely. And I really like that mindset of I'm able to choose how I move my body right now. I like that. I really like weightlifting myself as well. I
Nice.
find, the cardio, I have to motivate myself more. So maybe that's something I'll try to
Mm-hmm.
keep in mind. Um, so one of the things I wondered is, you've talked a lot about some of the changes or alluded to a lot of the changes that you've made and where you started to see health improvements. Can you give us a bit of an overview of the ones that really moved the needle in terms of your health?
Yeah, absolutely. So just from like a basic standpoint, when I say basics, food, movement, water, sleep, definitely water.
Yeah.
Please drink your water. That it's surprisingly something that I think that is overlooked. And I don't think enough people are drinking enough water, and please put in some electrolytes with that. Movement, when I was feeling at my when my body was ready to move again, really restorative movement. So we want to be very supportive and we want to create a safe place for your body. I was personally, placing a lot of uncertainty in my body because of the stress and the way that I was allowing it to impact my life. And so when your body is in a constant fight or flight, if you are constantly on the go, you're constantly stressed, you're constantly worried about what happened or what's going to happen. Our body, it just is not able to really focus on the function, like the daily functions that we need, our digestion,
Mhm.
sleep, restorative sleep. So like actually, being able to kind of clean out our mind and all the gunk and, really restore ourselves for the next day. So really with food, I love, love, love talking about blood sugar regulation, and all that is just making sure that you are fueling your body in a really balanced way, right? So that we're not experiencing, and really blood sugar regulation is how food it impacts your body. So you and I could eat the same exact meals, and the reaction to those meals is through our blood. It's going to look extremely different. And so if we're constantly eating food that's causing our blood sugar to spike, and then we crash, and then we're, craving some sugary, bready kind of things because we went up, we crashed, and now your body's like, oh my gosh, we need some energy. So if we're constantly on that roller coaster, which ironically very much looks like kind of dieting, where we gain weight, lose weight, gain weight, lose weight. So we want to make sure that we're really, really steady in how we're fueling our body. And that's just really through whole foods. I'm sure people have heard this and know this, and but really making sure your protein consumption is good, and that you are eating some balanced meals with some good protein, some fat, some fiber, some carbs. That will make a world of difference for energy, especially throughout the day. Some of my clients, even with jobs or busy mamas, maybe we'll eat breakfast and then maybe we'll eat a snack and then we kind of have a dinner, or we're eating late at night. And so we want to just try to make sure that we're supporting our body throughout the day. Any restorative movement such as yoga, Pilates, walking is so, so good at any stage of our lives. For any goal that you have, just to increase your step goal is going to over time work wonders. And I think that that's just really a key, is that, it's not a quick fix. It's not. If you're experiencing symptoms, if your body is trying to communicate to you that, it needs support, your body has been going through or trying to kind of work itself out over months, probably years. And so the expectation to fix something in 3 months or to feel better, you can feel better pretty quickly, but to get the weight loss, to, get the energy and all of that, it takes time. It takes time, and it takes some focused effort and consistency. But I think, just specifically, of course, getting sunshine in the mornings, getting sunshine throughout the day, and focusing on your sleep. But, when it comes to specifically weight loss, I think it's just really important to note that first, your body has to feel safe to release weight. And we have to really support the function of your body so that we can allow it to do its thing, to digest well, to move well, to detox well, so that it not only is able to release weight, but it's functioning at a more optimal level, which is going to affect your hormones. It's going to affect, your periods. It's going to affect your moods, because everything is so much connected. So it's just having that, basically just more of a realistic, like, hey, these are lifestyle changes, or these are lifestyle implementations. It is for long term. I think we get so stuck on setting, I need to lose weight by summer so that I can XYZ. And then, it kind of at the end of summer, or at the end of what, the wedding or whatever that looks like, then we kind of resort back to whatever we were doing. And that's when I was kind of talking about before about kind of the yo-yo dieting, or the scale going up and down, and just really not being able to maintain, because all of that extreme eating, the extreme restriction, the extreme movement, the extreme working out, the not working out, all of those extremes are really, really tough on your body. And so if we're not kind of finding a nice middle ground here, and we can still be working towards goals, you can still be weight loss is a great goal. It's just that we have to find some middle ground, some stability and some safety for your body. And so it has a chance to really work in a more optimal way. So for me, food has been pivotal, and I love food. So I love talking about food. And just being consistent with those basics has been life-changing for me, and the last thing I would say, which it's probably not the most popular thing to say, even for myself, but really reducing alcohol consumption is going to be huge, because it's, when we drink alcohol, it's the first thing that your body is like, oh gosh, we got to get this out. So any sort of digestion or anything like that is put on hold to get that out. And so it just really disrupts sleep. As anybody out here knows, that like, for me, like, give me all of the charcuterie boards and wine, and I'm, it's really hard to like not just go kind of all in as far as like food and whatnot when you are drinking. But I have nothing against it by any means, but it's just that it will really help support your healing journey if you can like reduce or eliminate it for some time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I've done that. Just, I felt like I was doing so many other things trying to be well. And then I thought, well, I don't think this is helping me at all. So it's, yeah, once you get used to it, it's fine. I guess one of the questions that I have is, how did you then know when you could go from, that restorative movement, focusing on yoga, walking, into like a more intense exercise? That's something I always struggle with is, I enjoy exercise. I like to push. I like to see, but then I do get where I'm worn down. And sometimes I can't tell the difference, between, am I over exercising? Should I be taking it more easy now? Could you talk a little bit about that balance?
Yeah, absolutely. That's such a good question. And, with anything, with food, with movement, sleep, and it's, I always look at it like an experiment, and trying different things and seeing how your body responds. How do you feel? And I think that's the big, question for you or for me or for anybody, is just, how do you feel? Now, if you are doing extreme, like high intensity interval training, if you're doing some heavy lifting or lifting at all, and your body is like extremely, extremely sore longer than a day or two, that is very much a response that your body is saying it's not ready. Mm-hmm. If you, how do you feel right after the workout, in the next, 15 to 30 minutes? Do you feel that kind of, that rush of like the endorphins, or do you feel just absolutely like spent? If you feel absolutely spent, either like during the workout and you're pushing, not in like, you're pushing like, okay, I'm getting more in shape, but you're pushing like, I am exhausted, but for me, I'm like, I don't quit. Right. So I'm going to finish the workout, which honestly is probably doing more harm than good. And that's something I had to learn, because when I was kind of in the thick of it, experiencing a lot of my symptoms, I was using the high, intensity type of training. Well, I was using that as for me, I was hoping to lose weight, but also it was my emotional outlet because I wasn't actually dealing with the ish I needed to deal with. That was a way for me to mentally and emotionally level out and to like literally get the energy out so that I wasn't like being so anxious and feeling so overwhelmed, but which is a great thing. Like I still use movement for a mental, emotional support, but I also have to like say what I want. I also have to go after what I deserve. I also have to really keep myself in check with how I'm comparing myself to people. I keep myself in check with, am I doing this out of fear of judgment of others, or am I doing this for myself? Those are all very much, I think, the most pivotal part of health. And so really, how do you feel? How do you feel before the workout? How do you feel during the workout? Did you get good sleep last night? Like if you didn't get if you're on multiple nights of not getting proper sleep, it's probably not the time to show how tough you are and bust out a really high intensity workout. You are tough regardless. And if you're a mother, you are the toughest, right? And so sometimes we are already ran down, and then because we're trying to tick all of these boxes of health, sometimes we don't meet. We're very well intentioned, but we actually do more harm than good. And so I think just really going off of how you feel is going to be the most annoying answer. But also like, how is your body responding to those workouts? And then playing with it, maybe adding in one high intensity workout a week, seeing how that goes. Maybe adding 1 to 2 strength training. Maybe it's just starting with your body weight, some strength training sessions or something on YouTube or whatever, seeing how that goes. And just really be open to playing with it. I think, people come to me and they're like, just tell me what to do. I'll do it. And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. Like, let's do it. I get these amazing women that are super successful, that are ticking all the boxes, that are super frustrated. And they are willing to do whatever, but it kind of goes beyond the ticking of the boxes. And so I always, or one of the things I kind of grapple with is, are we dealing with a weight problem or are we dealing with a worth problem? Because if we're not really kind of getting into the digging deeper part of who you are and what you want, and I think as women, we put a lot of other people's needs before our own. That is very much a part of your health journey. That is very much affecting your body. If we're having thoughts of resentment because nobody does anything for us and we do everything for somebody else, our thoughts kind of will create our emotions in our body, which our body reacts to. So that's going to create a response to ourselves. Us stressing about all of the to-do lists that we have to do that we never can get done, or that we don't want to do, or that we feel like, we're living in a Groundhog's Day, just ticking off the boxes of, like picking up the kids or going to work or whatever that looks like, that it's actually affecting your health. And so that's what I found is kind of the biggest aha for me working with clients, is like, it's not only about ticking your boxes and running yourself into the ground, doing all of the right things. You are doing all of the right things, but we have to make sure that we're really supporting who you are as a person and what you want, what direction you want your life to be going in. That's very much a part of your overall health. And so that to me is like, that's my favorite part of it. But that's also listening really to how you feel and kind of getting into what you want, because one of the most common questions I ask women when we're thinking about working together is, what do you want? And a common answer is, I don't know. I don't know. And that's okay. That's a great starting point. But that is exactly what it is, a starting point. And then we can start to really get into what works for you food wise, what works for you movement wise, and kind of start slowly building those habits at the same time with really building who you are and what life you want for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. I mean, I think that is a big part of it. It's trying to figure out okay, what's changed, what's going on, what's happening underneath everything, and why things in your body are working a certain way. It makes a lot of sense for sure. Do you find that with clients, is there a big difference kind of hitting that 40-ish hump? I found with myself, I just noticed things in my body changing a lot, and it's hard to maybe, I don't want to say lower your expectations. Maybe it's like change your expectations of, what does a workout what would it look like? Or, how intense should I be? Or should I be changing things? Like I've heard some people say, yeah, I decided, at say 50 that I wanted to not run anymore. And now I do more power walking, things like that. Like, how do we listen to our bodies and know how to make those changes, but still be able to be fit and do what we need and still, keep that longevity and vitality?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Well, I think one of my biggest pet peeves is just the cliches that are put on us, right? As women, or as like, in a relationship, like, what one partner is supposed to be like, and the other partner's like, the roles that we play. And I just don't think that life is going to or has to go in a certain way. And so for me, just kind of touching on what we spoke about before, if I'm able to run at 50, I'm going to effing run at 50, because I want my body I want to be able to move my body in any way that I can for as long as I can. And so like kind of coming back to like, what do you want to do? And if in that pursuit, you're not as capable as you once were, how, like, do you want to keep going, where you're at, or do you want to like maybe scale back? And that's just something, it's just a very much a personal journey. I do have to say that I am a huge like believer and, advocate for strength training, especially for women. If we want to change our body composition, that is not done through running ourselves into the ground with cardio, no pun intended. That is going to be achieved through building strength and muscle. And, it's not just about body composition, but hey, that sure helps. But for women, it is strengthening our bones. It is strengthening our overall structure. It is speeding up our metabolism, because we're going to add more muscle and strength to our body. And adding more muscle and strength to your body, it's really important that we be able to get up off the ground. It's really important to me to be able to pick up my niece and nephew. It's really important to me to be able to, walk through the airport and carry my bags. And I only just said that because I was recently in an airport and a woman got off and was in a wheelchair, and the attendant that was pushing her, and I overheard her saying, I would never be able to walk this distance. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. And so strength training, I believe, is the one constant that we all should be doing. And if we look around in your family and your friends and in the grocery store, how many women do we see that have strong like bodies? And I'm not talking about like bikini fitness bodies. I'm not talking about muscly, sometimes women are afraid you're going to gain muscle, which is really hard to do. So good luck.
You're not, I know. That's what I always say.
Good luck. If you figure that out, would you actually call me? Because it takes a lot. It takes beyond.
I've been doing this for 10 years trying to build muscle.
Yeah. Please call me. But it's just something that for longevity purposes, it's not only for body competition, but it's going to be enhancing your overall life. So is the movement that you're doing, do you enjoy it? And I enjoy a push. Like I enjoy some high intensity intervals where I can push myself a bit. I don't do it often because it's just not in my wheelhouse anymore. But I do enjoy that, the mental blocks that come up that say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you have the other voice that says, but you're going to do it. And that really builds, there's just so many lessons in choosing to move our bodies, especially when we choose to move our bodies when we don't feel like it. But I would just really go off how you're feeling. How do you want to move your body? What do you want to pursue? Do you want to try something new? I mean, that's always super helpful to try a new movement. Even like kayaking, rowing, something that's just different that also brings another aspect to your life. Working out, I think it's deemed as such this, going to a gym and throwing around weights with guys that are grunting everywhere. And it's like, if you don't enjoy that, then don't do it. But we can figure out other ways to incorporate movement into your life that is enriching to you. But you're not always going to be motivated by any means. So I would really just go off how you feel, how you want to move your body today. And I just don't ever stop doing something that you like or you want to try because of an age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Please.
no, I think that's great. That's great advice for sure. Any other key pieces of advice before we wrap up? Anything you want to touch on, tools, tips wise?
I think we covered so much today. I would just, I think working with and even my own experience, I really believe that, with women in general and just getting the message across that, you deserve to feel the way that you want to feel. You deserve to live a life that you imagine or you dream of. I don't think we dream enough anymore. I think we get kind of stuck in the day-to-day stresses or ruts or Groundhog's Day. And I don't think, sometimes our belief around change is diminished and changing our life, changing our health, changing our mindset. And I really kind of operate that a lot of us women are walking around with a core belief that we are not enough. And when we operate from that place, that's all that we see. And so that to me is my real passion is kind of really getting that belief back or getting that belief above and beyond what you had ever really thought or imagined for you or your life, because so many of us are living a life to please others. And I don't think we understand the toll that takes on us and our bodies. And so I would just hope if anybody is listening to this and you're not feeling well, or you are dissatisfied with your symptoms, or you're dissatisfied with how your life looks today, that there is hope for change. There is hope to feel better. And then just start to take baby steps in figuring out what that looks like for you.
That's great, Amy. This has been such a pleasure, and I'm sure listeners are going to want to find out more about you. What is the best way to connect with you, either online, social media?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate this. And I just love these conversations. I'm on Instagram at amyraenutrition. You can email me at amyraenutrition@gmail.com. And Facebook at Amy Denson. So yeah, if you have any questions or specifically around thyroid or autoimmune or even, thyroid, blood tests to ask for, please do not hesitate to reach out. I love chatting and supporting and helping in any way that I can.
Perfect. I'm sure people will do that, and I'm sure you've got so much to share. This has been so great, and I've just loved connecting with you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much to Amy Denson for the conversation this week. I really learned a lot, loved hearing about her professional athletic background, as well as some of the challenges around Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It's something I'm always really interested in. I've heard so much about that disorder, and I think it's really interesting, and that a lot of the different ways that can help it are really fascinating and hopefully helpful to anybody who is dealing with that. I also wanted to just again reiterate, there's so much in here. I could have talked to her for probably another full episode on all of these things, and really appreciated her perspective and everything that she's bringing to helping people to overcome their health issues. Of course, if you want to connect with Amy, she suggested at amyraenutrition, Ray is R-A-E, at gmail.com, and also looking her up on Facebook under Amy Denson. Thanks so much for listening this week. We are heading into summer, so it is such an exciting time, and I hope everybody's getting outside and getting to finally enjoy this beautiful weather. Thanks a lot and have a great week. Thank you for listening to the Learning to Slay the Beast podcast. Please keep in mind, this podcast is not intended to be medical or professional advice. If you'd like to hear more from me, you can follow me on social media, Instagram and TikTok at Sarah Lady Gluten, or Facebook, Sarah_gluten-free lady. You can also visit my website, which includes author information, speaking information, and more info on the podcast at www.se-german.com. If you like the podcast, please feel free to review the podcast on your favorite platform and also subscribe, because it means that it will show up for you every week on your favorite podcast platform. Also, we've just started to have the ability to support the podcast. You can find this link in my Instagram bio or visit Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/learning to slay the beasts. Thanks again for listening and have a great week.